Hello and welcome back to the home of Urban Frog Tackle. We're continuing with our short films on our launch debut product, the REEL RAPZ. We're going to be looking at use 3, which, as you can see on the rear of all the pouches, use 3 is to do with bait pole, baiting spoons and bait boats. So that's like a guide controller to enable you to concentrate on the baiting process, so you do that right first time, every time, rather than worrying about the line, the reel, the setup and the rod and where it is. So without further ado, we're going to go into a bit more detail, the understanding of how to install the REEL RAPZ firstly, so you can have an understanding of the way it's designed. So as you can see there, I've just got a lid and I've just got the line going through the first eye, and we've got some soak line. So as you can see, it's pretty limp at the moment, and what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to set the reel for putting the REEL RAPZ in place. So what I like to do is, I've found the most favourable position for the reel is having the spool extended as far as it can go. So I just loosen the clutch slightly, and then what I'm looking to do is just get that spool as far out as possible with the bow arm facing upwards. So if that's on your buzz bars, your rod pod or your bank sticks, that's where you'll be faced with, in my opinion, and the design of the REEL RAPZ, the best place for a baiting guide. So what we then do is just hold the line, stop the line spooling off. What I tend to do here is just take the anti-reverse off, just so you can position, and just undo the clutch slightly, just so you can position best the body of the reel and the bow arm out of the way, so you can install the wrap sufficiently. Again, we're not going to go into too much detail regarding the makeup of the wrap, other than the fact, as you'll start to see in all of our films, we've got a soaked internal toweling section inside with a rear section. It's been soaked like that. We've taken it to the lake like that. It's come off and we're fishing. We now brought the rod back in, and we want to be putting out some bait with a baiting pole or the rig as we're setting up, or a bait boat. So using the same wrap, we'll then encapsulate the spool, as you can see there, with the wrap, and then we'll just transfer the line over to the other hand. Like before, we tend to keep the rod between my forearms, just on my hands there, just so that allows us to control the reel and allows us to control the wrap sufficiently for it to be put in the correct position. So what I like to do is I like to slightly cone forward the wrap. So that means it's tighter at the back than it is at the front, slightly. So initially I just put the wrap in place. Now we're not looking for this to be too tight. It all depends really the sort of weight and how you want to manage your line going out. And on some occasions you might want to hold your line out of the water with a baiting pole to prevent it from being pulled around, to keep the line with a heavier weight and keep it out of the water. That's potentially possible on the same with a bait boat. So we'll just set the wrap. So as you can see there, it's slightly loose at the front and it's slightly tighter at the back than it is at the front, and it's quite loose. What we don't want to be doing at this stage is really yanking this wrap back with the retention strap. So we want to be leaving it in place, and with a retention strap we just lightly want to be putting it around the leg of the reel, and then we want to be putting it either side. It doesn't rightly matter. I like to even up the wrap. So because this retention strap is coming off the handle side of the reel, I like to put it, when I'm using a bait boat, I like to put the fastening part of the retention strap just on the other side lightly, so it's in place. So what we've now got, as you can see depicted in the website online, you can actually see the same thing. The spool extended, the bow arm out the way, and the wrap being slightly loosely controlled. So you can see that there. It's exactly the same scenario. So you can see that there. And for the fact of pulling the line off when you're taking out a baiting pole or a bait boat, I tend to then turn back on the anti-reverse. So that body of the reel on the bail arm sort of locked in place like that. And then what you can then see is, if I just move the lead slightly closer towards me, that's now depicting the fact that it's now in the bait boat, you've got a nice taut line to the reel, and you're now in control of how much pressure you want on this for this line to be pulled out. So like this, it just falls off and it's just controlled. So as the boat's going out, it's pulling the line, but it's not falling off, it's not spooling off. Now the reason as well it's not spooling off is because the line's been soaked. So the line's conditioned. As you can see it coming off, there's not much memory or curl involved in that. It's really manageable, it's really limp, and it's fully saturated. So that line can continue like that to be pulled off as tough or as lightly as you wish it to be pulled off. As you can see there, it won't fall off because it's continuously being held. It's not like some other options on the market. There's not many. There's a couple which tend to be like a finger, or from the rod there, a finger. These are all expensive individual units that do one thing. Obviously this is a multi-use tool, and they give you those style of baiting guides, give you an intermittent contact. So they tend to touch on that front lip. So what can happen is, as the line comes round to that front lip, it then goes loose. Because this line isn't soaked on those other options, it can spring up, it can spring around the back end of the spool and get caught. That's happened quite a lot of times, and a lot of people have told me the same thing when they're using those style of line guides. So they are that style of line guide where they're on the front of the lip and you get that dunk, dunk, dunk all the time, where you're juddering all the time regarding putting your line out. So it's tight slack, where this is 360 degrees continuous support, just stopping that from coming off. And it's not metal or plastic, it's a soaked toweling inner with a waterproof neoprene wrap, stopping that line from spooling off and getting caught on your setup or brambles or detritus, your bobbins. You want to be concentrating on baiting up your swim. So that's on your setup, your pod, your buzz bars, your bank sticks, that's set up. You can forget about this. You know it's being managed and being looked after. You can concentrate on putting your baiting spoon out, whether that's 10, 20, 40, 50 yards with a baiting spoon. You're on your knees, you're on the bank, you need a lot of core strength, and generally you don't need much crosswind with that style of baiting application for you to then start struggling with the line blowing round, with the pole blowing round, going at all different angles, and you trying to correct that. You can lift your rod up and hold your line taut to the baiting pole to try and guide the baiting pole. That's quite difficult, so then you're back to only using one hand on the pole. So with this being on your pod or your buzz bars, you don't need to worry about that no more. If you want to angle your rod up in the air for doing that, you can do, for getting over weed and for getting your line up out of the water so it's taut to the baiting pole, baiting spoon. You can do that as well. So there's so many options, but it allows you to concentrate. You need to get down, you need to get your baiting pole out quick. You might have 3, 4 sections together and you're trying to do that. The last thing you want, especially of a night, is you might have a head torch on. You can only see where your head torch is pointing. You might have a light on your baiting spoon. You can only see where it is. And the last thing you want to do is to to take your eye off the pole, turn it slightly and dump it, or for your line to get caught on your setup, and for you to be shipping out your baiting pole and then your bait's pulled off, dumped halfway out to where you're fishing, you've now ruined your swim. You wanted to be fishing out to the back of a bar where you know you've caught fish from before, and you've now dumped it halfway out. You've now got a baited area. What do? Do you get away from that and go back to where you was baiting? Dreadful position to be in. Bait first time accurately all the time. Never dump your bait short. Manage yourself. Have this like having another spare pair of hands. It's like having a buddy with you all the time. Not like you want to put your bait out and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you just had a fish, your pal's asleep, you can just crack on, you can do it. I've had it where certain day ticket waters, not mentioning any like Burners Hall, you could be like 120 yards out with your bait boat. If you're worrying about your rod and your line spooling off, you've only got to look down with a crosswind for 5 seconds, you look up again and your bait's 10 yards to the left. And what way is your bait facing? You look at your echo sounder and your GPS for your bait boat, if you're fortunate enough to have enough money to have that. And by the time you look at that and your boat has turned, it takes so long for that to capture what your boat's doing. You need to be concentrating on it all the time. You need to be focused on that, not this. This allows you to focus on your bait boat, your baiting spoon, and this will become, once again, like uses 1 and 2, use 3 is tick. It's one of the main reasons why I developed this product. This was a pain for me, and this has answered all of my prayers. It's an amazing tool, and that's just one of its uses, one of the 5 uses. It's light, it's compact, it's easily stowable. You know, once you've got it on your line, your reels, and you're soaking your lines, you're taking it to the lake anyway, and then you only need one realistically after that for bait boat, bait and spoon use. So if you want to try this out and you're not sure about soaking your lines yet, which as you can see in front of us there, still amazing, have been out for 4 or 5 hours today. We've got all the curled lines here, and we've got the lovely flat Crichton line there, and we've got the Fox soft steel, and here we've got the Ridge Monkey fluorocarbon coated fluorocast. So as you can see, it's still coming off nice and limp. Bit of curl, it's been sort of dry, it's been out for about 4 or 5 hours, but still looking really good. You wouldn't want to be putting out these curled lines and with it spooling off using this for a bait boat baiting spoon. So hopefully this has been an informative film for you guys. You've got a great understanding of use 3, which is the guide, the controller for bait boat, bait and spoon use. They look good as well. They're easy to install. And as you can see, that went on in seconds. And you want to take it off now. I can show you that. You want to take it off and you want to reset your rod. So you want to put your rod back on your bobbins. So you take your retention strap off just like that. You then undo the Velcro receptive fastener. You just get your finger on the spool, stopping the line coming off. You then put that down onto your setup, put your bow arm over. Obviously we're just keeping, because we've got line out here from the display of showing you this, and then all you do is you want to reset your setup. You just put that into place, however you like to set your rods. So you set your rods up, you can see lovely limp line, perfectly soaked. Set your bobbins, your rod's ready to go. On this case, set your front clutch. We're going to be fishing locked up, so you're ready to go. Perfect. Who wouldn't want to be fishing with lovely, manageable line, bait gone out first time, accurately every time, and your rod set up perfectly, so you don't have to worry about it. Hopefully you enjoyed the film and I didn't go on too long, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next short film, which will be line installation, line cleaning, removing algae and the potential of putting detergents or liquids onto your line when reeling in. That's going to be the next film. So see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.